Hi. How you going? Oh, once again, I've got on. I've just washed my hair and I look like a wreck. No, I don't. I look fabulous. Sorry, I lost myself there for a moment. I look fabulous. Um, I had a few requests for things to talk about. So I'll do the readings as we normally do, and then we'll get into some discussions around. I'll do the readings first and I'll think of how to phrase it out. Because I'm getting similar requests from people. So I'm going to have a look at a Zoom group for that as well. I've got all my list all worked out of the things I want to do. So, and I've got a couple of things around me to share with you today. So it is my lunchtime. I've worked very hard this morning to try and make sure I had enough time on here today. Woo! How you going, gorgeous? Yeah, so we've got a few things to talk about today. All right, I'm going to read you an animal spirit one first. Hey, how you going, Tiffany? Haley, no bell, just refreshed, and there I was. See, magic. You're tuning in, you guys. See, you don't need a bell anymore. Intuition. Okay, so I'm going to take a card from. We'll take that one because that was the last one out. So I have the lizard coming out for you here. All right, one lizard. And a very handsome lizard he is too. I would think he could be a water sign, but he's not. Okay, interesting. Lizard. Okay, instinctual, sensitive to the subtle, and a dreamer. The lizard is an expert in the realm of sensory perception. As if it has a sixth sense, the lizard hears what is yet to be spoken and sees what is yet to manifest. Or talking about intuition. Although this is an amazing gift, it can easily wear the lizard down. Big crowds, lots of travel, or overstimulation will drain a lizard of their magical essence. He's obviously an empath. This card is an indication to pull back from the bright lights of big city and return to the inner artist who's been whispering your name. Well, this is sort of about being spiritual, telepathic, and artistic. I think that's really beautiful for today. My goodness, we've got heaps on today. Don't want to miss anybody. Oh, that sounds really boring. That sounds more boring than my work today. TS, Carla, how are you going? Rebecca, how are you going? Okay, so that's our animal spirit one. We'll just pull one from the wisdom of the oracle. I went into my cupboard this morning. My bras were crying. Have anybody else had that trouble? I haven't actually had contact with a bra in so long. How funny is that? I looked at them and I thought, isn't it great? Probably not good, but it's great. Hey Sarah, how you going? What time is it where you are? I've had this card before too. The card of breathes come up again, and I feel like when it comes up more than once, it's time to realize how important breathing is to you. Yeah, poor bras, huh? They really are the bane of my existence. I think they're horrible things. They're always uncomfortable. I guess sort of it's the first thing I do when I come home from work. It's like three flicks, right? That's it. Off in 3. I'm good at that. That and shoes. Oh, that sounds beautiful, Sarah. Oh, you've made great friends with leggings. I actually really like my leggings. When I worked behind the bar, the guys used to call me licorice legs. I think it's really funny. Yeah, it is. I don't like bras at all. And I remember when I was pregnant, because I was so absolutely huge and they were so heavy, and I had to wear a bra 24 hours a day because I'd die if I didn't. And then when you're feeding, yeah, you have to wear a bra all the time. So I think I deserve the years now where I don't have to wear a bra anymore. I like it. Nobody's going to see me, right? Okay, so I have the card of breathe coming out and the card of co-create came out. So I thought that was really nice. So let's just have a look at these. I don't want licorice legs. Yeah. They call me lots of other things too, but that was a bit of a nickname for me. Okay, let's read the Kara Breathe first. I always talk about how important breathing is. This is why meditation works so well. Because when you breathe into your diaphragm, not into your lungs, which means you breathe deeper and you get more out of breathing. We're not really taught how to breathe properly. So it's something you actually have to learn. Oh, okay. Fingers, not gingers. What did you write? Oh my goodness, now you make me feel like I was only small. I don't even know what size I was, to be honest with you. I'm a double D normally, so I'm not real sure how huge I was, but it was uncomfortable. Huge pregnant, yes. I was pretty although my daughter, I lost weight while I was pregnant with my daughter, and she was still 9.5 pounds. So I probably had gestational diabetes, and nobody really knew about it in those days. But anyway, I like that. The gingers, not your fingers. That's too cute. Hey, Joanne, you haven't missed too much. We got the lizard out to start with. We're just starting on these cards. Card of Breathe. This is about patience, waiting, going slowly, wellness, meditation, and trust. The oracle's message here is patience in all things is called for right now. Now my nose is going to start running. Hang on a second. I know I have a hanky somewhere. Not COVID. Just plain old hay fever. And you think staying home all the time, I wouldn't be out and about, I wouldn't have it, but it's pretty bad at the moment. Okay, starting again. Patience in all things is called for right now. What do you need to do when you're in a rush? Slow down, of course. Meditate and trust. Breathe and repeat. Humans cannot exist without drawing breath. Now is the time to allow the life-giving element of air to replenish your body, your being, and your very essence. Stop to smell the roses, breathe in the sunlight, and release the darkness, and miracles will appear. And I'm huge on meditation, but I know how difficult it is for some people, so I'm going to talk about that a little later. The other card I've got here is the card of co-create, which I think is absolutely beautiful today. Oops, that's the wrong one, Yvonne. Okay. And there we are. It's beautiful. It's really nice. Okay, so this is about creativity, art, inspiration, fruition, and manifestation. You may not consider yourself a creative person, but in fact, you are creating your reality every moment of every day via your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, intentions, and actions. Yet you must consider that you do so in partnership with spirit, consciousness, God, or whatever name you call your higher power. And I'm always sensitive to that because everybody's a little different. You are a spark of this intelligence that works through you, nudging you with inspired thought and intuitive guidance. You are a paintbrush that co-creates a beautiful, unique expression of your own individuality blended with universal spirit. You're a product of divine inspiration, and now you're aligned with it to create miracles. When you view your life as art and know you co-create it, only beauty and grace result. Prepared to be amazed. Very nice readings for today. Okay, so meditate. Now, I want to get into meditation, but a couple of people have sort of written and asked me to talk about relationship breakups and that hurt and pain that you feel when you feel either rejected or abandoned, or you're feeling disappointed with something that didn't turn out the way it does. And that pain can be all consuming. And I know what that pain feels like. So you feel like you've been hollowed out in the middle. You feel like you can't attach to anything. And the pain, whenever you go into that pain, it just makes you feel so helpless. Now, I know that that same grief can come from losing someone, or losing a pet. It can come from many, many things. And it's the actual feeling of just feeling so desperate inside. And a few people have said to me, especially in these relationships, because we've all got together for some way. Somebody bought me the Conversations with God, the book, the set, which is a little bit of a sign for me there. So I'm going to just sort of sit on that one for a moment. So people always say to me, what do you do? I'm feeling really desperate. I want this person back. And often I say to them, you can't make someone come to you. You can't do that. It's impossible to control someone else. And it's certainly impossible to make someone love you the way that you feel about them. The thing is, if you look at love in its truest form, love has no conditions. Love is very, very pure. It doesn't create jealousy. It doesn't create obsession. It doesn't create any of those things. So, very often, and I'm going to be really, really honest here. So if people feel like, maybe I'm sort of bursting their bubble a little bit here, I'm sort of not sorry, because I think I need to say things as they are. The feeling you're feeling with that desperation, that pain, that calling, that urge, whatever you'd like to call it, that thing that makes you feel so out of control when you get into the feelings and you cry and you wrench at yourself and you pull yourself apart, that isn't love. That is attachment. And it's really, really difficult to understand sometimes. Hey, Queen of Water. Sometimes it's really hard to understand because we feel it's love because that's all we've ever known. Now, I talked to you the other day about attachment and abandonment in childhood. Now, I don't want anybody to think they had bad parents, because that's not what I'm talking about here. But I'm talking about the parental bond that a child has with its parent. If you had a parent who was not consistent with their love, who was not able to show you love for whatever reason, sometimes parents are very young and they don't have an understanding of how to parent their children. Whatever it is, some parents unable to show their children love. And because we're in a society that teaches us that parents love their children, that mothers are automatically nurturing and automatically love their children as soon as they're born, they fall in love. They don't. And a lot of parents have trouble, a lot of mothers in particular, have trouble bonding with their child for whatever reason has happened. And what happens is, if they can't develop that love for the child that's unconditional, very often that child becomes secondary to them. So if you were born especially to someone who had very narcissistic tendencies, that child is just an extension of them. They will love that child as long as it gives them what they need. And that's what happens in a lot of cases. So as a child, you start growing up. And I've talked to you a little bit about how a child learns to trust within the first 12 to 18 months of life. I have this book. It's a fabulous book, and I used it when I was doing psychology, and it's got some really good stuff in it around attachment disorder. So let's just talk about what happens. So a child then is born to a parent who really doesn't understand how to parent a child. And then that child grows up with that relationship between them and their mother being very distorted, because the mother figure is supposed to love the child. So if a mother smacks you every day, or abuses you, or mentally screws with you every day of your life, that idea, that concept there becomes how you think love is. So you attach this idea to what you think love is. Now, if you're a child who's calling or crying for their mother and they don't come, then you start to feel as a child that someone isn't meeting your needs. So you've got someone who you don't feel that loves you, and then may be inconsistent with their parenting. Now, a lot of us were born in an age where we were told to leave your children to cry. Doesn't do them any harm, they'll be fine. Just let them cry for 5 minutes. We probably did a lot of damage there. Now, I'm not saying you've got to run to your child every time it cries, because a child has to self-soothe. So a little bit of time is okay. But at the end, mum goes in and checks. Now, if you've been born to a parent who doesn't do those things, you will start to form what they call abandonment issues very, very early in life. So it's like, I'm crying, I need you, and nobody's coming here. So very often what we're taught to do now is go in, pick the child up, check them all out, pat them, give them a bit of a cuddle, then put them down again. So they know that you're going to be there. So then as adults, we grow up with this fear of abandonment. Now, the thing is, with this fear of abandonment, it happens to narcissistic people just as much as it happens to empathic people, but it just forms a little differently. So the fear of the attachment disorder can be a few different ways for different people. So some people have like, oh, there's anxious, avoidant, and secure, and whatever else. But to talk in layman's terms here, some people will have an attachment disorder that says if they feel they're going to lose someone or get hurt by someone, they'll push them away first. So you're going to hurt me, then I push you away. I'm still going to suffer the heartbreak, but I'd rather do it myself than have you do it to me. For other people, they run. So they become the players. They become the people we see as the Casanovas because they can't settle. They do the same thing, but instead of suffering the pain of pushing someone away, they run away from the pain. And they get so worried that someone is going to see who they truly are that very often they go through subsequent relationships because as soon as a person starts to see who they are, the mask drops. Which reminds me, yesterday I mentioned Phantom of the Opera and said, all I ask of you. And someone wrote back and said something about the Phantom wearing a mask. And I thought, isn't that just really relevant? So just sit on that for a moment because I forgot to say that at the beginning. So what happens? You get the push-pull. Great, Hayley. So you're right in here. You're understanding what I'm saying. So for many of us, the fear of getting hurt causes us to push people away. For others, the fear of getting found out or seen for who they truly are makes them push people away really quickly and move on to the next person. And you can keep doing that. It's cycling, but you may never form a healthy relationship because you've never put in the energy or that whatever it takes, the time, communication, energy into developing a relationship. So a relationship becomes very much a two-way street. And the whole idea of us getting to this point of healing is to help us heal what essentially happened to us when we were children. Many, many years ago. Now, there are always the exceptions to the rules. You always hear these people say, oh, I had really wonderful parents. You know, my parents were fabulous. Well, actually, I've met two very, very narcissistic men who've had amazing families, who've been incredibly supportive. But you know what? When you look at the dynamics, those boys, both of them, their mothers adored them far more in the family than the other children. They invested a lot more time and energy into them. They didn't really allow them to make any mistakes because they were always there. And their relationship with their mothers was probably a little, I don't want to say unhealthy, maybe was unhealthy because of their attachments to their mothers as full-grown men. So, what happens is we often end up meeting someone who's the opposite of us. So if we are a person who pushes someone away because we are scared of getting hurt, then we often attract someone who is more likely to leave us. Hence the runner and the chaser in the twin flame relationship. Now, I think this is a lot to take in, and I'm happy to go ask questions if you're really this is why I say a lot of the stuff I've learned over the years through psychology fits in so incredibly well with this spiritual idea. This is how we get healed. So it's sort of like we have understood this when we've developed our little life plan to bring in people to help us work that out. But I don't know for some of you how many people you've cycled with to start to understand the healing process. Because I think sometimes you understand a certain amount of the healing process, you think you're healed, and you go out into the world only to pick up the same person again who again breaks your heart and just reinforces that abandonment within you. So you go back to the drawing board and you work on yourself more and you try to understand more why this is happening. Now, that pain that you're feeling that I was talking about right in the very beginning, that feeling of just being absolutely distraught, that feeling is a lifetime of pain. It's not just come from one person, it's come from everything that you've stored up throughout your lifetime. All those pains of being what you see as rejected, which isn't really rejection. But because of that insecurity you have from being a child, because of that trust issue that you had when you were a tiny baby, when you were missing out on that reinforcement, you immediately think someone's rejecting you and you completely go into that rejection and your body rakes up all of that stuff from your lifetime. So you may be bringing up, in effect, 20, 30, 40 years of pain. And it's excruciatingly painful, but it's possible to work through it. It is possible to get to a point where you can love your person without having the attachment anymore. And you can certainly get to a point where you love yourself enough to value who you are, that whether or not that person walked back into your life wouldn't make any difference. Does it mean you stop loving them? No, it doesn't. But it means that you can live a very good life without them or with someone else. Now, the thing is, when you crack that person open like they've cracked you open, which is supposed to happen, everything depends then that both people go to earth and do the work that's required of them. So whatever work you're doing, whatever stuff you're working through, your person is being guided to do the same thing. Does everybody do it? It's a lot of work, but it works. Okay, so what I want to say to you is, if you want to heal, if you want to get over that person, if you want to ease the pain, if you want to pull yourself away from that energy, all of those things are possible. It's going to be hard. It's going to be, at times, you will fall back into the tears, you will fall back into the pain, and you have to remind yourself not to be feeling that anymore. But in order to do all of this, you've got to be dedicated to want this. And see, at the beginning, when it all first happens and you're all raw and you're all upset, you don't want to give that person's energy up. But you see, you're not giving them up. You're just learning to cope. You're learning how to self-soothe, which was what you should have done as a child. So if you want to start healing, obviously my first place to go is always meditation. It's breathing. It's also about learning to love yourself. So doing things that really, hey Scott, how you going? Really help you to heal. Because as long as you're hanging on to the other person's energy and you're not healing yourself, you're not allowing their soul to heal itself either. So if you're hanging back, sitting in the sadness and the desperation and the desire for that person to be in your life, then you're not allowing them to heal either. So you're holding them back. Now, I get a lot of people say to me, does the other person feel the same? Well, my short answer is yes. But a lot of people go into denial. They close it all down. They have other things to attend to. They move on to the next person, whatever eases their pain. But because we're empathic, because we have these hugely empathic natures, we tend to just sit with all the pain ourselves. So we take all the pain that they're not feeling as well as our own pain, and we sit with both while they move on. So not every person who is going to run is going to do the work required of them. And that's why I say to you, if you put in the work and effort, the very chance of meeting that person again may mean you don't want them back. Because let's face it, if you've had someone who's done that to you in the first place and then run away and then not done the work, is not going to be a fine specimen when they return. Sorry, they're not. They're going to be exactly where you left them vibrating. And meanwhile, you've raised your vibration, you've learned to love yourself, you've learned to heal that gut feeling that makes you feel so empty. You've learned to love yourself, so you don't really even need anybody else. So if you have someone coming back who's still vibrating down there low, you're not going to really even recognize them. And you're certainly going to wonder why you fell in love with them in the first place. Now, I could imagine some of you are sitting there that have come back to people that you knew years ago thinking, how could I ever, ever, ever have fallen in love with that? It happens. So, okay, so I'm going to get to that, Joanne. So, yeah, it always seems that people are talking about working on stuff and they don't really know. But if you're going to do it, you need to be committed 100%. You can't say, I'll do it today and I'll maybe sit on it next week, because then when the pain comes back, you don't attend to it. And the pain is all about your own fear of rejection, your own fear of abandonment. It's got nothing to do with the other person at all. So it's your responsibility to heal. Now, I just want to have a look because I've missed a lot of, see, you had the clingy stuff, Sarah. That's really what they call anxious avoidance stuff there. But anxious because you want someone in your life. Anxious, you want to be loved. You want to have someone there. Someone comes in and you go, meh, fuck off. You're going to hurt me. I want nothing to do with you because I'm going to get hurt. I'm already getting feelings, and you push them away. Okay. This is anxious avoidance. So that's what you're talking about. And you were overloved, TS. See, overloved is especially, it's just as I don't want to say damaging, because I don't want to take it away from parents. So please don't think I'm saying it's damaging in the respect of your parents didn't do the right thing. But if you're not allowed to fail, and you're never allowed to fall over, and you're never allowed to experience some of the pain that life brings you, then you don't become resistant or, good with looking after yourself. So sometimes that sort of does the same sort of thing too. As soon as something goes wrong, it's like 10 times worse for you because you've always had someone save you from problems and issues. And it comes down to that sort of, being a tough parent, really, and allowing children to experience things so that they don't feel overwhelmed or hurt. But a lot of parents overparent their children. You get parents who overparent, you get parents who underparent. None of us are perfect. We do what we know best. And it's got nothing to do with that, really. It's just how we perceive it. We can fix it, but this is why it creates the pain. See, there you go. So I know this person here who's talking here says they've seen people fall apart after leaving home because they never had any way of being self-sufficient. Mum cooked all the meals, probably made the beds all the time, probably picked their clothes for them in the morning. So a child doesn't grow up having any idea of what the world's like, and the world can be pretty tough. Mic drop. So the pain is something you've got to work with. Okay, so somebody said, how do you work with the pain? Now, first off, I'd get into understanding this idea better. That would be the first thing I'd say to you. So the first thing you need to do is you need to understand attachment disorder and abandonment. That's where I'd go first. Do a little bit of research. Have an idea of what that means for you. Try and sort of do a bit of childhood work. Maybe go and have a look at what happened to you when you were a child. Have a really good look around. If you've got good memories, some of us have very few memories, so it's hard sometimes to understand. I guess for me, it was more about putting the nuts and bolts together, about your parents and what they did, and sort of understanding how that would affect a child that was developing. So if you can get a little bit of an understanding of what attachment disorder is, and certainly abandonment issues, because it's our fear of abandonment and rejection that creates the pain. So that's where I'd start. And having a good understanding would be really a good experience for you. Now, what I would then do is I'd start a meditation practice. Now, if you don't feel like you're ready for meditation or find it really difficult, I would really encourage you, because if you're in a very anxious state or you've just come out of this pain, sometimes meditation can be quite difficult. And we've talked about this before, where, maybe meditating for you is going for long walks and sort of tuning out with the energy, putting some music on, whatever it takes for you to get out of your head for a little while, because that energy of aching for someone so badly can really drain your energy. So some days it will be very difficult. That's why it starts to sort of feel like depression, where you don't want to do anything because you're so drained of your energy. So meditation is huge, really huge. If you can do meditation, then that's where I'd start. Now, the other thing that is really valuable for you too is to understand your past is your past. Now, in concept, this is a little difficult to get. The past has gone. You can't bring the past back. You can't make it return. You can't bring it back to you. You do not have that control. So you've got to learn to give up control and learn to live in the moment and not be worrying about the past or the future. When we go into the pain, we're going back into the past and we're experiencing all of that pain from our past. So you have to learn to do that. Now, what I would say to you, can do that through meditation by learning to let go of your past. Some people find that a little of a difficult concept, and I guess I was lucky because I sort of learned the concept of living in my body through reading The Power of Now. But I heard Richard Grannon talking about it the other day, and I guess it's a very good point. Some people are not in the space to hear this, and some people are so in denial that they do not want to let go of the pain because they feel if they let go of the pain, they will forget the person. It's a bit like grief. You know, if you've experienced the loss of a family member or loss of a friend or a pet, sometimes going into that grief is so overwhelming, but we're scared if we let go that we may not remember that person. Okay, so really try to think about how you can live in the now. Now, some of the ways to do that, Joe Dispenza talks about it all the time, so you could watch him. But again, he may be a little bit difficult to understand because some people, what happens is they discover all this amazing stuff and they're so clever, but they talk to you at the point where they've found that, which sometimes can be a little bit intellectual and a little bit sort of like, ooh, overwhelming, a bit like someone talking maths to me. So I would suggest, first off, you can get someone else to heal you, absolutely, but it really needs to be your own healing. So you can get someone to help you do some energy healing, Reiki. Hey, Moira, some of those things for you, which may help a little bit with the energy. They sometimes can clear some of the back energy, which is really good. But I think that you really do need to, thank you, TS. I think you really do need to learn to do this for yourself. You've got to take responsibility. If you give the responsibility to everyone else all the time, you're not going to take responsibility for your own pain. So I guess that's really the heart of the matter, is taking responsibility for it and deciding you're going to have to do it every day, at least for the first few months, until you really understand what you've done, how you've manifested that pain, what you're doing to yourself. Once you get an idea of those things, then it's sort of easier to travel to learn. So firstly, have a look at what abandonment issues are and what attachment is. If you can understand them a little better, that's a good starting point, because you'll understand how you've grown attached to someone. It's not about being in love with them. You've actually gained an attachment. It doesn't mean you don't love them. Please don't get me wrong. You may love them still, but it's the attachment that causes the pain. Because I always say, that little thing, and someone always reminds me about the bird. If you set it free and it comes back, it was yours. And if it doesn't, well, it wasn't yours to begin with. It's the attachment pain. That's what hurts. Okay, so go and give yourself a little bit of time to do research on, oh, my clock said 3333 then. Ooh. Get a little bit of knowledge first. Don't allow someone to heal all of your pain. It's okay to get help with some of it, but some of it is really, or most of it is up to you, because you're not going to grow as a person if you do not take responsibility for it. That is really important. Hi, Gigi. How are you going? So first of all, I would do those couple of things. Then if you feel able, start a meditation practice. Start doing some meditations around healing, childhood trauma, if you've had a harsh childhood, and certainly around, people say that, cutting cords, but it's not always about cutting cords. So sometimes it's just about letting those cords go, just understanding how to let the person go, because ultimately that's what you've got to do to heal. Now, again, people say, but I don't want to let them go. I love them. It's not love when you're hanging on to it for dear life. That is not love. Love is about being able to release that person. Whether or not they return to you is irrelevant. You've got to learn to release them. So you have to learn out what happened in your childhood, really have a look at that, really understand who you are in that process. Understand that this is yours to work with. It is yours, nobody else's. You can't blame your mother, you can't blame your upbringing, you can't blame other people, you can't blame the person who left you. This is all yours to own. So the first thing to do is put in a meditation practice. Okay, so meditation practice, I do mine really early in the morning. So I get up first thing and it's the first thing I do. I still listen to guided meditations. I can meditate by myself and sometimes I can do it beautifully. But I just find if I've got someone to listen to, I can stay really focused and I can do a good half an hour. At night time, I do an hour meditation and I put one on that's going to help me to go to sleep. So some of my favorite people may not be your favorite people. So please take this with a grain of salt. I love Joe Treacy. I think he's beautiful to listen to. He has a lovely, soft, velvety voice, and it doesn't bother me. Now, I find some meditations people will come in with those drums or high-pitched singing or noise, too much noise. I like just nice, calm music in the background, and I find that easy then to get right into the meditation. So have a meditation practice. If it doesn't work the same time, commit to doing it every day. Even if it's only a 10-minute meditation, commit to it. Because what meditation does for you is it takes you out of your head and into your body to feel your body. That's the first point of call. It teaches you how to breathe correctly, which helps you to become more relaxed. Okay, so remember that as well. You don't need anyone to help you do anything, Scott. You don't need anyone to help you do anything. So Rebecca says Steve Noble is really good. Now, I know we've mentioned a few times. Hey, Louisa, how are you going? I know you've mentioned a few times different people. So if you've got any ideas, please put them up. As I said, Joe Treacy's my favorite. He may not be everybody else's. And then once you've started a meditation practice and you've become more sort of centered and you can understand how to quieten down your mind and your thinking, then you can start to work on it's TREACEY, I think. And then you can start working on some of the other things. So once you've got a good meditation in practice, keep it. Do not let it go. Do it every day, every night, whatever makes you feel comfortable. Keep at it because that is going to be honestly, it's going to save you regardless. But you've got to be committed. Absolutely. Now, if you feel that you can't move with meditation and you need something first, you can always try EFT, and that's the process of tapping. You can do that the same. It only takes 2 minutes. It just runs you through a routine, which takes you out of your head for a little while. So whatever, some people are putting some great ideas in here if you want to go back and read over the comments. So once you've got your meditation in practice and you've got the other things, every time that you have a relapse or you start to feel like you're going into the pain, you need to be an observer. And you know me, I love the idea of being an observer. So you've got to stop for a moment and go, I'm thinking of this person again. You might wonder why you want them back. Go into that. Don't deny the feelings of it, because what we usually do is we go, it's so much pain and we're trying to push it away. We don't want to think about it. We're just trying to keep it out of our heads. Don't. Really think about it. Why do you want that person back? And think about all the things that have happened, all the things they've done, all of the things you've done together. Think about it. When you start to push things away, it's that whole purple unicorn thing. When I tell you not to think of a purple unicorn, what do you think of? So I would say to you, don't push the feelings away. Experience the feelings, run through them, and then let them go. Because the fact that we push them away all the time and we don't want to feel them is part of our healing process. So we go, oh, I'm thinking of them again. Oh, no. Push it away. Push it away. Don't. Have a look at it. Look at it deeply. Look at everything about it. Look at why you liked that person, why you didn't like that person, what they'd done. Think about the pain you've gone through. Think about what happiness you went through, whatever it takes, but be an observer. Observe your pain, feel it. Because many of us, what happens is we're not used to dealing with the feeling and we don't want to feel. Who wants to feel that pain? So we push it away. It makes it so much easier. And then, of course, what happens? It just keeps coming back. So the more you can experience it, the better. And then you can start to dig a little bit deeper. So you can change up your meditations and do some more healing, but take it to a different level. Start doing some chakra meditations, get yourself back into balance, start eating a little healthier, looking after yourself, because that is where self-love comes from. Looking after your whole body, not just your mind. We all get into the mental stuff. We all get into how can we heal all the mental stuff? How can we develop spiritually? But remember, your body needs looking after as well. And if you keep dumping your emotions into your body and ignoring them, your body will get sick. You'll get tired from all the overthinking and your body will get unwell. So then start to look at how can you live in the moment without looking back at the past. Now, as I said to you, Dr. Joe Dispenza was really good for me there because he really helped me with that. You can follow up and look at some other people who've done this. Eckhart Tolle is fabulous, talking about the power of now, living in the moment, trying to release your past. All of those things will come after you've done once you're in a routine of good meditation practice. For some people, they've said to me they've sought out counselors. And I think that if you are in that much of an emotional mess, if it really has affected you that badly, talking to someone is really, really good. But talking to someone who really knows or understands who you are is even better. Sometimes it's good talking to a stranger. It really does help. But I think that sometimes it's good to speak to someone who knows and loves you, but be prepared. Because if you talk too much, people will say, I'm sick of hearing it. I don't want to hear it anymore. That's all you talk about. And I think that's really sad too, because if somebody came to me 15,000 times, I'd still be listening. I might tune out a little bit, but I'd still listen. So I think that, be aware that talking to people is really good too. Now, sometimes what happens is that person just moves on with their life and you never hear from them again. And the next thing you go stalking them, because who does the stalking? Because that's what you do. That's because you keep getting into your feelings, Louisa. But your feelings are about your healing, okay? So that healing, that crying, that sadness, you will cry it out eventually if you don't push it away. But after a while, you'll want to. Like, everybody wants to heal from this. Nobody wants to stay there forever. And even though it's painful, and like I said, you could be years down the track and you still think about that person, but it doesn't have the emotional impact that it did in the beginning if you've worked on it. It's better to completely cut them off if you can, Scott, completely. Cut off your Facebook, cut off everything else. They've cut you off. So you're hanging on to them. They're not hanging on to you, remember? So the stalking thing, sometimes that's what we do. And it creates more pain for us because we want to have a look. We want to see them. We just want to feel connected to them again. So sometimes we'll go stalking them just to have that connection. Well, that can make even more pain come back again. If you're going to do that, just remember that will tip you straight back into where you started. So be prepared. And this is why I say you need to become the observer. You need to understand how to detach from that emotion. That is the really hard one. So detaching from that emotion is where you're trying to work with the meditation, by being able to stand back and observe without actually getting into your feelings. Understanding your feelings, watching how they come through you, watching how they affect you. But at the end of the day, that person done their work. So don't forget that either. That's why forgiving them is really important, because they've created a pain within you that has created love. Out of that pain becomes love of self. And they have created something within you that you didn't have before. And that was the love of self. So you have to learn to forgive them, you have to learn to let them go, and you have to learn to move on with your life with that same amount of love. And you have to understand that not all twin flames will be back to have a beautiful, loving, happy ever after with you. I'm sorry, that's just how it works. Because you can put all the time and energy into what you want and what you desire, but you have to let go of that attachment, that desire, because that's not going to bring them back to you. Only thing that's going to ever bring them back would be their realization, them working on themselves, and them understanding the connection they had to you. So it's very possible that they will never get that. Sometimes they do, sometimes they come back and then they look completely different and we're not really interested. So it's entirely, a very personal thing between two people. But if you haven't grown and you're still in the same place and you meet that person in the same place, you're just going to have the same relationship all over again until they run again. They like to run. They don't want to deal with all that heavy stuff. It's too much work. And we all know, if you've been through the work, you'll know how much work it is. It is difficult, but it certainly gets easier if you're dedicated to healing yourself. And that's where it really lies. All right, let's just have a look at a few of your comments. Yep, Suvlana app has some excellent guided meditations. Yeah, some people just don't heal. I'm sorry, that's the truth. And sometimes the pain, if you want to keep feeling the pain, just go for it. I'm not here to tell you not to. I'm just saying if you want to heal the pain and not feel that way anymore, then you've got to make a really conscious effort to stop. It's not something that just comes easily, because you're reliving years of pain over and over and over again. If you don't allow it to go, it can burn you out. Yeah, we talked about stalking. Yes, putting you on the growth pathway of growth. There you go. An obsession is often a way of avoiding other problems in your life that you're not dealing with. The thing is, the strength you find from working with this is amazing. It's amazing. Being able to let go of, a lot of the past stuff, a lot of your childhood stuff, a lot of your self-sabotaging, your cycles, all those things. Letting go of some of those things is just the most amazing feeling, knowing that you will never be that person again. You can never go back to where you were. And yes, some people will never ever want to be with that. Once they've healed, they will not even think about wanting that person again. You might get a little curious and wonder what they're up to. They've probably moved on, got married, and put someone else through the pain. So, it's different for everybody. I mean, some people have these relationships, they move away from someone, they heal. Some people I know who are in relationships where they've healed together. So they've actually been able to come together and do the healing together of their childhood. So it's different for everybody. But all I'm saying is, if you want to heal, if it's your desire to heal, you need to understand where these feelings come from, do a bit of childhood work, try and understand some of the stuff. This book here is the Essentials of Lifespan Development. I was teaching on Erickson, on his child development theories, and they were really easy to understand. So I used to use them a lot when I was teaching people about, learning how a child develops. Really good understanding of that will help you. And then get a meditation practice before you do anything else. Really try to understand how good a meditation practice is. But the main thing is, don't do the whole burying yourself in ice cream and chocolate. Try and sort of get healthy. Try and understand that this is time to look after you, your mind, your intuition, your body. Those are really, really important things for you. Louisa, if you really want to let go, then I would start with a meditation practice, but do it every day. Learn to be an observer in your life. Learn to observe those feelings. Ask yourself what you want. Have a look at this person and make sure you also include the things they've done to hurt you as well, because it's not all about the fairy fluff, fairy floss, whatever. It's not all about that. Some of these people have done, pretty tough things to you. Um, and whether you can forgive them for all of that and the letting the go is up to you. But at the end of the day, they've done their job. They were in your life to make you realize who you were and to make you realize what you can accomplish. And if you're sitting around with the energy of that person in your life all the time, you're not going anywhere. You're dragging yourself down. um, so you're dragging yourself back. You're blocking your own manifestation, basically. So it's very difficult to bring someone new in who probably is going to treat you extremely well because you're so focused on this person that's come before. And you know what? If you don't do the work, oh my goodness, let me tell you, if you do not do the work, you just keep bringing the same person in because spirit's there going, yep, you didn't get it. Here's another one. Yep, you didn't get it. Here's another one. And you're still vibrating low. So you're still bringing in people who are vibrating at the low level. So you just keep moving through. And eventually you'll say, wow, there's a lesson here I need to learn. Look, I say a lot, Gigi, about parenting. I worked a lot with homeless kids, much younger, of course, and mostly between 13 and 18, but, all the way through. And I used to say, people expect that parenting is something that's going to come natural to us. I don't know why they think that. Mothers are going to be good mothers. Parenting is going to be great. I've seen kids sell their 7-year-old children to other people for sex. Like nobody is completely aware of how to raise a child. Not every parent loves their child. As long as you understand that that is the case. I'm not saying that they're not parents out there that absolutely adore their children. I certainly adore mine, but a lot of parents don't. So if you're raising children and they've had no love, they never know any different. If they haven't had trust, if they haven't learned to build themselves up, if they haven't had that reassurance that what they're doing is good and build their confidence, by the age of 12, 13 years old, they're completely lost because that's when the ego really kicks in. So you have these kids who just go completely off the rails and nobody can save them because they're already experiencing that last 10 to 15 years of their life. And we're talking about romantic relationships knocking us over for 1, 2, 3 years. Not much, is it? So that was the other thing I was going to say to you. I mean, some people I've met are still mourning years later. Don't be those people. Don't be still mourning for someone you lost years later. It's hard. Yes, it's really hard, but don't be giving your life up to be sad. You have so much more to live for, so much more. So I agree with you, Gigi. I think they should have parenting in school. I think they should have some psychology in school to help children understand how to parent and how to live. Oh, wow, that's a big one, Moira. That's really huge. 50 years. There's a couple of people on my Facebook page who've are back with their twin flames after one's 20 years and one's 30 years. So I imagine, so you know how I always talk about conscious healing and unconscious healing? I always think conscious healing is doing the stuff I was talking about, really helping yourself to heal. Meditation, looking after yourself, walking, whatever it takes, talking, whatever. And the unconscious meditation, unconscious healing comes through the crying and the pain and the working through that as a child would, the self-soothing. If a child falls over and hurts their leg, they're not crying 3 hours later. Very often, if there's no attention there and they're not too fussed about, they'll get up and get on with things and not worry about what happened to their leg. That's unconscious healing. It's something we do. Our body does it all by itself. Our heart and mind will do it eventually. The memories get less. We suffer less pain. So I would imagine after 20 years, if one twin flame has put in all this effort to heal themselves and then found that they don't want to go back to that person, they've gone off and married someone else, and the person who's been the runner has done the same thing, there would be a lot of unconscious healing in that time too. So both those people came back together with people that felt that they'd put them on that road and eventually got back to them. But that took 20, 30 years. You don't want to be doing that. You want to do the conscious healing. You want to really understand how to heal yourself. Listen to yourself, listen to your body, listen to your intuition, listen to your internal guidance, your higher self, whatever you invest your time in. Listen. Holy cow, Moira. See, Sarah? There's people that have been waiting for 20 or 30 years. Don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. No, there is no real handbook, but there is a lot of people who've experienced it and got through it. So just try and listen to the people who've got on the other side. Meditation, self-care, looking after yourself, all of those things are so important because this is about self-love. That is why you're here on this planet. This is your life, to learn how to love yourself. If you always love someone else more than you, that doesn't work. Yeah, probably a little bit with your children, but I don't think you love them more than you. You probably love them the same as what you do yourself. Oh, that's incredible. That's incredible. Hi, Riley. How you going? Some of those people, Scott, have never spoken to their twin flames in between. They might not speak to them at all in 20 or 30 years. So they don't communicate. You don't even know where half the time people have gone. And often they just bump into each other many years later and just realize they still have a bit of spark. Oh, Lynette, never mind. You can always go back and rewatch it. We've got you lost contact for 25 years. There you go, Scott. 25 years. The Moulin Rouge. I couldn't watch that movie. I had real issues with it. It just wasn't my thing. Yes, meditation's really good for you. Okay. Yes, there you go. Don't put anything off. Don't procrastinate. Oh my goodness, that's the worst thing you can do when you're healing. We all do that because we go, oh, I don't feel like it today. I'm just going to leave it. And then it plays on our mind. And then we become really distracted. We have too much going on, and that's not healthy either. So you have to learn to let go of it. You have to learn to heal yourself. And don't keep thinking about it. Don't try not to think about it all the time. But when you do think about it, just stop for a moment and have a look at those thoughts. Don't get into the feelings. Don't get into the emotions. Stop yourself if you start getting into the emotions. It's possible. You can detach from your emotions and go, why am I thinking of that now? What is just reminding me of that? What sort of feelings is that bringing up for me? How do I feel in this moment? Observe. So important for healing. So, are there anything else or is there anything else you want to say? I'm sure there was something else I wanted to say, but definitely look up the attachment and abandonment stuff. I think it's Bandler and somebody who originally came up with the concept because they saw that people's relationships in adulthood weren't really working out well. But yeah. Anything else before I move? Before I get off? It's been nearly an hour. No, you've all gone quiet now. Have you all gone off for meditation practice? No, you're still mostly there. Yeah, and Moira, I mean, when you got back, actually can answer a question. After 25 years, you didn't get back with this person. You said you resumed your relationship after 50 years. How did you feel about the person when you met them after 25 years? Did you still have the connection? I'd be really interested. With the two people I've spoken to who both ended up with their twin flames after very long periods of time, they said they often thought about them, but they never thought they'd ever come into union with them, both of them. They thought that was it, that they'd both gone off and got their own paths and moved on. I know that I met a guy that was my boyfriend when I was 16 before I came to Australia. And when I went back to England, and I would have been 40, probably close to 50, and I went back and met him, I was really shocked because I'd sort of always held a little bit of a flame for him for all that time. Um, but when I got back, he'd also been doing a lot of things the same way as me, like, not having really good relationships. He was a cheater. And he told me that. He said he'd ruined so many relationships because he couldn't stop cheating on people. So it was quite interesting to meet him after all that. Okay, attachment and abandonment issues. You do still think about them. TS, I'm ready to open my door for you. A great cook. You've won me over just with that. I love to eat. Sadly, I have issues with, keeping my weight down, especially in lockdown. So I've just gone on a healthy eating pattern again because I've sort of gained about 4 kilo in the last 5 or 6 weeks. And that's from predominantly eating chocolate. I told you somebody asked me out on a date and I was like, oh my God, I'd have nothing to wear. I just seriously thought I'm not going to fit into anything, not unless I wear a very baggy muumuu or something. Oh, there you go. No, I tried some movies I'm not a romance person, okay? So I don't mind romance and comedy. I can sort of do rom-coms. But romantic movies I find just so a friend of mine made me go and see the Titanic, and I think that was 2.5 hours of complete agony, and I kept asking her if I could go, and she kept saying, "No, just watch this bit, just watch this bit." I was like, "It's terrible." And then that poor man, that woman kicked him off the raft and let him drown. There was so much room on that raft. They could have both have survived. Then somebody else watched me watch The Notebook, and I was like, "Kill me now." No, don't do romance at all. I'm extremely romantic, but I can't relate to that real tacky stuff, I guess. And you're talking about the Moulin Rouge, and I tried to watch it. Somebody actually gave me the movie, and I tried watching it several times. I've never got into it. There's no chance for either of us, and I'm totally okay with that. Old wounds needed to heal. The turning point was when we both learned that we were into tarot. So your person did do some healing, which is really, really cool. Okay, that's really nice to know. Yeah, the one I went back, I've spent many, many years being sort of totally besotted with. I used to think he was just the most amazing thing, and when I got back to England, I was like, "Not done, finished." Oh, you're a sucker for romantic movies. Good for you. Somebody's got to watch them. I'm Arnie Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis. Give me all of those. I love X-Men. I love thrillers. I like murder mysteries. I love murder movies. I love horror movies. Oh, that's me. Yeah, too much wine. So mine's chocolate, my darling. So we all have a little bit of a bent, I guess. Oh no, I didn't. Notebook was right up there with Titanic for me. I was like, oh, I can't. I want to just go. Oh, another movie somebody made me watch. I think it had Susan Sarandon and Richard Gere in it. So somebody's going to tell me it's something to do with dancing. And I saw that she had really big feet. And that's all I could do was laugh at the size of her feet for the whole movie. And the girl, it was my friend, the guy I knew, it was one of his friends. And she was so upset with me because I kept laughing. I'm like, you made me watch this. I'm sorry, but that's all I could see. That was it for the whole movie then. Well, if you love romantic movies, you should watch The Notebook. It's a real tearjerker, apparently. Sorry. Oh, you have nightmares with horror movies. No, there have been a couple of movies in my life that have made me feel a bit creeped out afterwards. But yeah. I really love thrillers. So I'm sort of like Silence of the Lambs. I loved the book. I love Stephen King. I love reading Stephen King. I At the moment, I'm watching Supernatural. I've watched it probably 8 times. But it's cool because even when I do remember stuff, I still really enjoy it. I love vampire movies. They're my favourite. Totally into vampire movies. Sarah's probably still here. The raft. Sarah said to me the other day that she was a vampire freak as well. Richard Gere. I went out with a guy who looked like Richard Gere years ago. He was such a beautiful looking man, but he was a bit of a dork. No, he wasn't a dork. He was very jealous, possessive, and unreasonable. He stalked me and wouldn't leave me alone. Dark Shadows, great movie. Oh, some real light stuff just to lighten this up before I go. Oh no, I love horror movies. You'd be no good with me then. My kids all do too, so we used to watch them all together. I guess it's the way you're raised, right? But I've got to say that I know my daughter still loves the romances. So I'm trying to think what I've been watching. So I've been watching, and I love medieval stuff. I love like the Knights of the Round Table, wizardry, all that fantasy stuff. I love that. Like I said, I like the X-Men. I've got all of the X-Men movies. I have about 500 or 600 movies, DVDs downstairs, and I can't part with them. I can, as I said, I can do comedy romance. I can do quite well, but that's probably the best. See, I knew you'd said that to me. Avatar's a really good movie. Somebody took me to the movies to see that in 3D with the glasses, and it was just amazing. I so enjoyed it. And that was in the days when you went into the theatres and they supplied you with food and drinks. You didn't pay for it unless you wanted a particular type of food. But love vampire movies. I've been to Universal Studios, Rebecca, and I did love Universal Studios. My daughter and I did Disneyland and Universal over a few days, and I loved Universal Studios. But I did like some things. I didn't think I'd like Disneyland at all, and I did like a few things, like the rides. They had oh my goodness, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Pirates of the Caribbean, and Ghost House. That's what they had. I don't know if they're still the same now, but loved all of those, especially the Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I love those movies. I've just recently watched all the Mummy movies. So there you go, much better. That's my kind of romance. Star Wars. Yes, we were a Star Wars fan. We were a Star Trek fan too, and we were a Doctor Who fan. Nerd. Vampire movies are my favourites though, so I agree with Sarah. I have every vampire movie I think that's ever been made. I have so many of them. Life isn't scary enough. Okay. I like the laughing too. Don't get me wrong. I don't mind a good comedy, but if you put comedy, I loved Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings. If you put laughing in with something that's a little bit scary, like the Scream movies were, then you've won me. I'll marry you. So if it makes me laugh and at times makes me feel a little bit, jumpy, then you've got the best mix. Okay, all the Fast and Furious movies. Yeah, I'll go the Fast and Furious movies. Get me a little bit of Paul Walker or Vin Diesel. Yeah, they're good. Probably not quite as good as Bruce Willis. I was a big Bruce Willis fan for many, many years. I just thought he was the most magical thing on the planet. And of course, Keanu Reeves, who's always been my favourite since I was very young. So the Matrix movies. Indiana Jones and the Mummy, yeah. See, those sort of things I love, the fantasy movies. One of my favourites is a movie Tom Cruise did called Legend. If you've never seen that, Legend is a really good movie to watch. That is a fairy tale. And it's one of Tom Cruise's. He's still got all his crooked teeth. One of his, I don't know if it's his first movie, but it would be very close to one of the first movies he ever did. The Labyrinth with David Bowie. Who didn't love Labyrinth? Outlander, I watched the first couple of seasons and I liked the first one. I thought the first season was really good. And I got halfway through the second season and I sort of lost interest in it. Breaking Bad. I loved Breaking Bad. I thought that was awesome. I loved Vikings. It took me forever to watch Sons of Anarchy. Probably took me several times to get past the first couple of episodes of that, but I enjoyed it once I watched it. But the Vikings are stop your heart. Keanu's mine. Oh, dribbling. The Labyrinth. Yep. Outlander. Oh, so you couldn't even get past the last episode of the first season. Yeah, I'm trying to think of some of the others. See, there's someone else, Keanu. He's such a beautiful thing. And he's still beautiful now as he was when he was young. To me, he's just a stunning man, stunning personality, stunning person, stunning to look at. But anyway, that was a nice light finish to all the heavy stuff we've been talking about. Oh, so Sarah, you've seen Legend. Yeah, it's one of my favourites. And that's why I said Labyrinth. These are things I watched with my kids when they were young. I'm sure did anybody see The Last Starfighter? That was a really good movie. That's a really old one. Anything with aliens. Oh my goodness. I've just thought of another one. And I can't think of the name of it. And I watched it the other day. Yeah, I don't mind Sandra Bullock either. Actually, I watched Miss Congeniality not long ago, just for a bit of a cack. See, I can do those. Those sort of romantic sort of comedy things are okay. I can do it as long as it's got a bit of fun in it. I'm just not I've watched a few sort of documentary type movies that have been really good, but Last of the Mohicans. But yeah, I suppose I've got a pretty good range. But anyway, I better go. Otherwise, I already run way over. It's been lovely talking to you today. If you do want to ask any questions, I'm still trying to put together, as I said, some of these Zoom things where we just invite a few people in. So we might even do one on abandonment and attachment and healing. Maybe do something like that too. It's just very hard to have a lot of people doing a class. It gives people time to talk to each other. So still working on those. One of the women I've met through here said to me, she uses Zoom every day. So if I need any help with that, she'll give me a heads up. But she said it's very, very easy to use. The Never Ending Story. Oh, yeah, that was a cool one, wasn't it? Thank you all for coming and joining me today. It's been lovely to have you on board. And we'll catch up tomorrow. Mwah! Love you all. Take care.